All right. Buenos dias. If you were gone Tuesday, May 6th, or you got late to class, I suggest you watch this video so you can keep up with the rest of the class. So, take out a pencil, take out a paper, and take out either 2 different color pens, 2 color pencils, 2 markers, or any utensils you want to use that are not the color of your pencil. So, today we'll be focusing on preterite of stem changing verbs. So this should be the title at the top of your paper. Give you a second. Okay, let's begin. Pause the video as needed. So a long time ago, we talked about preterite AR, ER, and IR verbs. However, I did not go in depth with stem changing verbs, and that's what we will be focusing on today. So, specifically, IR verbs, because that's the only one it applies to. So AR and ER do not have stem changes. That stays the same all throughout. IR, it's a little bit different, and I'll explain that as we teach the lesson. So, on your piece of paper, wherever, I'm going to do it on the right side of my paper here, you're going to draw a small table. And we're going to title it -IR preterite. Like so. Have it big for you. And if you forgot your pronouns, let's do that together. Top left will be yo or I. Middle left will be tú, you, informal. Bottom left will be él with an accent. Ella, usted, which is you, formal. Top right will be nosotros or we. Middle right will be vosotros or you all. And then bottom right will be ellos, ellas, and ustedes or you all, they, and ustedes, formal, right? So, IR preterite. So, the conjugation or the ending of the verb will be different based on the pronoun, like we've talked about before. So, for yo, it'll end in I latina or the letter I with an accent. Tú will be iste, I-S-T-E. El, ella, usted, it'll end in I and O with an accent. So the letter I and O with a tilde. Nosotros, imos, vosotros, estéis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes, yeron. Sounds good? Okay, so now we have our generic conjugation table, right, for IR verbs, preterite, past tense. So now let's dive in a little bit more specific. So I'm going to do it on the left side of my paper. Let's draw another table. Right? I'm going to give myself some space. And once again, if you need to write the pronouns on the side, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to, just to have a little bit more space, and I can zoom in more and talk about what it is that we're talking about. So let's talk about a specific IR verb related to food, like in a restaurant. Let's use servir. Do you know what servir is in English? I'll give you a second. It is to serve. So up here, I'll write servir. And if you forgot what it means, you're more than welcome to write down the English translation, right? To serve. So let's conjugate serve or servir. So how would you say I served. Yo serví. Accent over the I. What about you served? Serviste. What about él, ella, o usted? Now here's where it gets a little tricky, and I'll explain a little bit more in depth later on. So in here, it would be sirvió. S-I-R-V-I-O, accent over the O. And I'm going to underline that so I can come back to that. How about we served? Nosotros servimos. S-E-R-V-I-M-O-S. They all served will be servisteis. And then last but not least, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Sirvieron, once again with an I. And I'll underline this again so you can see that. So now we're going to do this. Take one of your writing utensils, whether it is a colored marker or a marker, colored pencil, a pen, and you're going to make a big box around the, actually that's the green, bottom row. Now you're going to draw a bigger box around the top two rows. Now I'm just going to quickly clean this up so it looks nicer when I explain. And then, in that same color, we're going to make a triangle around the verb. So, like that. So this is what it should look like now. I'm going to erase that. Oopa. Okay. Now, let's label these. So, we have what we call la casita, or the tiny house. So at the very top, we have our attic, right? Or our, in Spanish, ático. We don't touch the attic. We don't, that's just, no one renovates an attic. That's where we keep it. And this is where we have our verb that we are conjugating, right? So we have servir, so that's what's in the attic. It's stored away in storage. We're not touching that. Our main floors is what we call the first two rows, right? Main floor or floors, however you choose to call it, or in Spanish, pisos principales. Now it's principales because there's two floors, meaning plural. So pisos, floors, plural. Principales, plural. This is actually one of your vocab, like in the word main dish or comida principal. This also looks very nice. We do not want to renovate the floors of our house. We leave that as is. Now the second or the third row, the last row, that's what we call our basement. It's super ugly. We have to clean that up. This is why we move stuff around. We have to renovate it, right? In Spanish, basement is sótano. You will not be quizzed on this, but this is very helpful to help you remind yourself on how to conjugate IR verbs, especially when they have stem changes, right? So we have our attic. We do not, this is meant for storage. We do not play around with this. We leave this as is. Our main floors, or pisos principales, look very pretty. They look nice. We don't want to do anything with them. We leave them as is. Our basement, or our sótano, is super ugly. We got to clean this up, which is why we renovate and change the stem. Okay? So now we zoom out and go right below our table we just worked on. So here, we're going to label stem changes. Stem changes. And here we're going to talk about how we know which letter gets replaced by which letter, right? So if the vowel in the stem has the letter E, it will change to the letter I. For example, servir, to serve, right? We did this in this previous example. It has the E, but when we need to renovate, it changes to an I. Another example is pedir. Or to ask. For example, yo pedí al mesero, one of your vocab words, por un vaso de agua. Or in English, I asked the server for a cup of water. Okay, so there's E's here, as you can see, E and E. We need to renovate it when we use the pronouns él, ella, usted, ustedes, ellas, ellos. Or this bottom row right here. That's the only time we're doing stem changes. If it's any other pronoun, we do not touch it. We do not renovate. Sounds good? Okay, so at this point, on your piece of paper, you should have all of this down. If you haven't, I suggest you do this. Pause as needed. Let's continue. Now, if the stem has the vowel O, I'm going to give myself some more space. It changes to a U. For example, dormir, or to sleep. Another example, morir, or to die. So this is how stem changes work. If your stem has the letters E or has the letter E, it changes to an I. If the stem if the stem has the vowel O, it changes to U, like dormir or morir. So let's draw another table right next to this. And I'll show you an example. So here, we're going to use this example, the O to U. And we're going to use dormir. So dormir is going into storage. It's going to the attic. We do not touch it. We do not mess with it, right? Goes into storage. It's there to lay forever. Now, I slept would be yo dormí. D-O-R-M, accent over the I. Do not remember. It is important to have your accents. And here's why. We have two words that are spelled almost identical. Father in Spanish. Dad in Spanish. Yeah, okay. So here is why accents is important. We have two words spelled almost identical, except for one tiny change. The accent over the letter A in that first word. So we have papa, this one, and then we have this one, papa. And here's why it's important. Papa is dad. Papa is potato or potatoes. Potatoes. Right? So if you say, I like eating potatoes, you would say, me gusta papas. Right? You don't want to say, or if you want to say, I eat potatoes, you would say, yo como papas. You don't want to say, yo como papá, right? You don't want to say you ate your father. You want to say you eat potatoes. So that's why accents are important, okay? So make sure you get those accents right, or else it will be marked wrong on your summative. So back to this. Dormí. I slept. You slept will be dormiste. She slept would be, here's where we come. We're now in our basement. It needs to be renovated. So we take the O, right? And we change it to U. Durmió. And clean this up a little. And then we're going to move this into our middle. Durmió. We slept will be nosotros dormimos. Again, second floor looks nice, so we don't have to renovate. Main floor, or the first floor, vosotros dormisteis. Dormisteis, right? And we're back in the basement. We have to renovate once again. So, would it be, they slept, would be ellos durmieron. Let me clean that up so it looks better. Durmieron. And once again, we build our house from bottom up. We have the basement, which needed to be renovated. Let's build a big old box around our top two floors. And then the attic, which we never touch. We don't mess with it. It's used for storage. No need to mess with it. Right? So we have our attic, our pisos principales, or main floors, and then we have our sótano, or our basement. Okay? So now, these four examples have been with two syllables, right? Servir, pedir, dormir, morir. Simple, right? It's super easy to figure out which one is a stem, right? It's always going to be the first syllable in two-syllable words. But what about if it's three syllables? What happens then? Well, let's look. So, right below your stem changes, we're going to write, how do we know which vowel changes? With a big old question mark, because that is the question of the hour. How do we know? Let's look at an example. I'm going to space this word out. We're going to use the word conseguir, which is, you want to take a guess? It is the professional, or the nicest way to say to take. So the answer is to obtain or to acquire. So we have conseguir, which is a three-syllable word. Conseguir. Most of the time, your suffix, or you have three, right? Your prefix, your stem, and your suffix. Most of the time in a suffix, it will only usually be your AR, your ER, or your IR, right? Right now we're focusing on IR, so let's focus on IR. Most of the time, your IR will be your suffix, right? Suffix comes at the end of a word. For example, in these four words, right? Ir, 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 ir are your suffixes. But in this special case, with the word conseguir, we have the U. And if we remember previously at the beginning of the school year, or sorry, at the beginning of this year, 2025, we learned about the sound GUI. So you wouldn't say conseguir, right? The U is silent. So you would just say conseguir. So in this case, because the U has to play a big role in how the word is sounded, we say that the U is part of the suffix, or at part of the end of the word. Our prefix comes at the beginning of the word. In this case, it is con. So we have con as our prefix and huir as our suffix. So what remains is our root right here, seg. So now that we know a root word, we know that this is the vowel that will get changed, the E. So if we look at a rule right above, the E changes to an I. So this one will get changed to the letter I when we conjugate and use the pronouns él, ella, usted, ustedes, ellas, and ellos. Sounds good? Okay, so now let's practice. So here, I have 7 pronouns for you to use. So on your paper, write yo, usted, tú, ellas, nosotros, ustedes, and él. Now if you look, which I'll pause right now. So pause right now and write down the pronouns. Okay, now that you have written your pronouns, let's look at our verbs. So for each pronoun, there is 6 verbs. Hold up, I know, it sounds like a lot. It's not, trust me, here's why. I want you to conjugate 3 verbs per pronoun. So for yo, just conjugate 3 verbs. For tú, conjugate 3 verbs. Ellas, conjugate 3 verbs, etc., etc. So we're going to do the first one together. After that, I want you to pause, do pronouns 2 through 6, and from there, I will reveal the answers. So, first one, yo. We're going to do servir, dormir, and pedir. Servir, to serve. Dormir, to sleep. Pedir, to ask. So, if you forgot how to conjugate, lucky for you, we have our table of preterite conjugations. So if we go back down, servir is our first word. So it would be yo serví with an accent. Boom, we got one done. Let's do the next one. Dormir. To say I slept, you would say yo dormí. I slept, past tense. And the last one, pedir, to ask. How would you say I asked, past tense? If you said yo pedí with an accent over the I, you are correct. So give yourself a high five. Boom, you got it. So that's it. That's all I'm looking for your answers. That's it. Yo, or your pronoun, answer 1, answer 2, answer 3, and boom, you're done for the day, or with this question. Now we move to the next one. Usted. Let's do morir, conseguir, y pedir. So, if you forgot again how to conjugate, you have a table at the top of your paper. Because it's usted, we're going to be using this conjugation, IO, with an accent over the O. So if we go back down, morir, to die. Conseguir, we talked about it, to obtain or to acquire. And pedir is from the previous one, to ask. So usted, which is formal, how would you say you died with the formal you? If you said usted murió with a U, remember, because it's usted. It's one of our basement pronouns, meaning that the stem has to change. So, murió with an accent over the O, you're correct. So now that you've seen that this one has a stem change, that means your other two answers should also have a stem change. So let's do conseguir. We did the practice one with this one right here, where you had to break it down into our prefix, our stem, and our suffix. So we know that our prefix stays the same, so we can write that down. And our root, seg, changes, right? Remember, changes from an E to an I. S-I. And then we have our G. If you forgot conjugation, once again, it's up here, usted. Now, this suffix, right, conseguir, goes like this. Consiguió. And the last one, stem change again, pidió, action of the O. So now, do 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on your own. Pause this and come back when you're done. Okay, now that you have finished, let's go over our answers. Here's for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause and correct any answers you may have gotten wrong. Don't worry, we're reviewing this. It's the first time. Don't stress about it. We'll practice tomorrow and the rest of this week. If you got them all right, give yourself a good old high five. You did good. All right. So we have one more activity before we wrap it up. So on either the front side or the back side, we're going to do the last activity. So here we have a mini story of Paula Suarez and Humberto Suarez. They are a married couple and they go to a restaurant. So for this activity, I just want you to write down the answers. So on your paper, write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'll read this in Spanish and then I'll translate it to English, and I want you to fill in the blanks with the correct conjugation. So here we go. Paula y Humberto Suárez llegaron al restaurante El Famoso a las 8 y seguir al camarero or mesero, which is one of our vocab words, a una mesa en el patio. So Paula and Humberto Suarez got to the restaurant El Famoso, which is the name of the restaurant, at 8 and followed the waiter to a table out in the patio. 2. El señor Suárez pedir una chuleta de cerdo. Mr. Suarez asked, Mr. Suarez asked for a pork chop, chuleta de cerdo. Chuleta, chop, cerdo, pork. La señora Suárez preferir probar los camarones. Mrs. Suarez preferred to try the shrimp. De tomar, los dos pedir agua mineral. To drink, both of them ordered mineral water. Another one of your vocab. The waiter repeated their order to confirm. The food took a long time to arrive, and Mr. and Mrs. Suarez fell asleep while waiting for their food. At 9:30, the waiter served their food. After eating the pork chop, Mr. Suarez felt very sick. Poor Mr. Suarez, why didn't you order the shrimp? So now pause, fill in the blanks, and we'll go over our answers. These are our answers. If you got them all right, give us a high five. If you got them wrong, don't worry, we'll keep practicing. And we'll continue this tomorrow. Thank you, and have a good day.